welcome to the show. Always amazing having conversations with this gentleman. Last week he was here. It was pre-Valentine's, and we talked about, manhood and all of that, and how there's so much pressure to be a certain way. Pressure from maybe biology of being a man and societal factors as well, created by society for man to be a certain way. So today we're talking about the evolving face of manhood. And he is none other than John Ngugi. John Ngugi, you were here last week. Ukatu encourage na ukasema ni ngumu. Ni kazi kukuwa mwanamume.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to talk about, the different faces, because it starts from somewhere, then there's something else. And I think society, or maybe scholars, have taken it upon themselves to just be tearing this theory of what manhood is all about every other time. And that is why we're here today.
Thank you very much. It's amazing to be back. It's Valentine's. The song is Valentine's is coming. Eh?
Yes, Valentine is over.
It's over. Thank you. So we can now get back to the rest of our lives. And this is actually quite fitting. I'm glad we had a pre-Valentine's. This is a post-Valentine's.
Yes.
So we all survived. I'm glad we all survived. Yes, we are alive.
Yes, we are.
The conference happened.
I saw that. Of course, the jokes were there, the memes were there.
Yes,
but it's fine.
And life now continues.
Yes.
And I'm happy because we're able to sort of like switch gears a little bit, because we can now talk about life. I mean, outside of just the pomp and pageantry of Valentine's, the bigger picture of life. Because we talk about even evolving. I love that, even just the way we will come up with this wordplay around evolving.
Yeah.
You see, the thing about your life as a human being, growth is very, very, very critical. In fact, growth is actually a sign of life.
Yeah.
If there's no growth, there's a problem.
Yes.
And you could actually be going probably the other direction. And so one of the interesting things is that if you look at work done, of course, which is much more well known by people like Sigmund Freud, talking about the stages of childhood development, there's a lot of material on that. There's not as much material on stages of adult development, but it's a thing. In fact, there are researchers who have actually been able to do work around, that's some of the work we do, of course, in the world of coaching and psychometrics, the stages of adult development.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things around that is that you find that there are certain things that need to happen in your mind. We like to talk about socialization of the mind.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so happy to be here to talk about this. Of course, the evolution of a man is very important, or evolution of masculinity is very important, because the circumstances we are in today are not the same. They have been the landscape
totally
is shifting dramatically.
Yes.
One of the interesting things that, just to touch on Valentine's, I would like to talk about, that I saw this, of course, on the social media streets, is a couple of people talking about, we came up with an agreement, now men's conference aside, like as couples, that this year, now as a guy, it was a guy saying that I will be the one who will be spoiled, I'm going to get the chocolate, I'm going to get all that stuff,
yes.
The next year. So we're going to do alternate years. So I don't know how that's going, but
all the best, all the best.
Exactly.
I feel for the lady. Well,
there you go.
Keep quiet.
There you go. But so that really made me laugh, and a couple of other interesting, takes people are taking on this thing. But the fact of the matter is, the shifting landscape of relationships, of business, of the economy, of life, demands that we also shift with it.
That's
and
true.
so what I'd like to think about is what the evolving face of man, of masculinity needs to be like.
Yeah.
And I just want to touch on something you said in the code, which I found very interesting. You talked about the fear, or rather fear, and the response to fear, which is a very big thing in how we show up as individuals.
That's true.
Our response to fear. And the 3 Fs, you talked about, you either take flight,
Yes.
you fight,
Yes.
or the third one I like is you freeze.
Yes.
And that's something which I thought like to think about even as we continue this conversation.
Okay.
That what happens as a man today, because things keep changing. I mean, things are changing so dramatically. I mean, we've talked about the roles in the home. We've had lots of conversations around what are the traditional roles, so to speak, versus what are the roles now. Like you do realize that people are talking about, cooking, cleaning, and all these other tasks in the house, actually life skills. They're actually life skills. We can't say that this is like the role of the lady, or this is the role of the man.
Yeah.
And for many, that's such a simple, basic, life or living chores can become a completely foundational or deal breaking.
That's true.
Fault lines will form around
that.
That
Is so true. Yes.
And so that's one of the ones I just want to talk about, the fact that we need to start even just embracing the fact that we are both at the workplace. I mean, we're both at the home front.
Yeah.
And yes, we may have different, physiological functions as parents, but beyond that, we need to be able to show up equally, so to speak, or not necessarily equally because we're different, but in a way where we are actually contributing.
Yeah.
We've seen a scenario where, you know, even now the corporates are now starting to give cognizance to the fact that as a father, as a new father, you need some time.
Paternity leave.
Exactly.
It wasn't there in the past. That is the evolving phases
of masculinity.
Yeah.
And you know, some people would just look at it and of course just dismiss it, but that's a very big thing. In fact, obviously the law is not structured, at least in this part of the world, in a way to allow even that sort of much more interaction, probably 2 weeks at best. And of course we've come a long way for maternity and maternal, you know, and there's still a lot of conversation even right now in the mainstream media about what's going on with that. And so that in itself says a lot, because when you think about it, the process of bringing forth a life and bringing that life to be able to, you know, start to become a little person who is sort of independent requires both. And this starts with, of course, just a very basic level of nurturing. I can say for free that I've not had a good 8-hour night of sleep.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine.
For a while, you know, but it's so fulfilling, because you literally are right there with your child.
Yeah, experiencing all these things as well. And I like what you said earlier about the chores in the home and how it's not equal, but it's different for every couple, for every marriage. It can't be the same. There are people, if you put them in the kitchen to cook for you just because you want to prove a point,
starting with me,
won't work.
You need to have the doctors on speed dial. Yes.
Food poisoning, things will be broken, there will be a fire in the kitchen. So it's different for every different couple, every different marriage.
Absolutely.
So don't expect what George will be doing. Kwake.
5-course gourmet meals.
Aiwezi. And there are people where the lady doesn't know how to do that as well. And the man comes in to help in that way. But if you have any questions around this, if you're struggling with anything around this, please send in that question, 111-444-111, because we're taking a very short commercial break and George will be able to just answer or touch on that when we come back. This is Full Circle with Mwikali. Welcome back to Full Circle with Mwikali. We are all about the man today. When that happens all the time, most of the time, when we have George in the studio, and we're talking about, you know, the evolving phases of masculinity, and we've seen how far we've come, and we've tried to just break it down to even the paternity leave and, you know, house chores and all of that. But then there is this sort of like a checklist when you stop a random woman uko barabarani ama kijana mdogo growing up. It's like, so how do you see yourself as a man? What is like the perfect man for you when you grow up? There's always this thing for, I have a good job, CEO somewhere, founder CEO. It has to be two together.
Making moves,
what car? You know, what car I'm driving. I need to have a house like this, like this, like this. And what does that then do to a man when they get to a certain age in their life and they've not gotten all this, they've not checked all these boxes?
That whole mwanaume ni
mwanaume ni.
That's very, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something we have to be careful about. Last time I was on, I talked about identity.
Yes.
It's so important. It's probably one of the most important things you can do in this life, to be able to acquaint yourself with your identity and to continuously walk in clarity in your identity. Because when you have clarity around your identity, a lot of the things that I would even call noise would not affect you, especially negatively, because we are living, of course, when we talked about last week's events, popular culture has defined and sort of creates all sorts of pressure around what you need to do, what you need to be, who you need to be.
Yes.
And the reality of the matter is that just like our fingerprints, every single one of us is very unique. And there's nothing wrong with these nice, what I can call them, nice features and attributes and whatever makes life, you know. I mean, I love the raw of a nice V8, you know, or whether it's a good game of football when my team, which I won't mention, is doing well, you know.
Mention.
You know, right now we feel like we're walking alone. I mean, there's a rush that comes with that. There's a rush that comes with all that.
Yes.
However, there are times when it's not always, you know, smooth sailing, so to speak, and not everything is lined up as it should be. You know, you could be in between roles. Either your health is not as it should be, possibly business or your economic status is not that great, you know. What then do you fall back on? Because I've seen cases where people literally are not able to even face their own family because they haven't created this image, leave alone the world, image and persona of themselves to their spouse, to their children, that take away the things that probably shape that, they would struggle to be able to find themselves. Imagine if you can't find yourself, you can't actually articulate yourself to your spouse or to your better half. You can't find yourself before your children, before your family. There's a problem there. And actually, right at that point, we need to start thinking about already how vulnerable and how open am I to the very close circle of people. That's, of course, my children, my better half, the people who are in my immediate family. Because probably that's where the problem starts. Because if I start to create a facade of myself there.
And it gets worse when you start believing in that lie.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And so when things, remember we talked about, I think earlier in the year when I came and we talked about outcomes that are different from what you'd have wanted. So if you, when you begin to get outcomes that are different from what you had originally expected, it becomes very difficult to reconcile. It becomes very difficult to reconcile. And that's why my call is to bring the man back, come back to that point of a clear identity in yourself, which does not depend on whether it's the money you have in your bank account, the car you drive, what you wear, or any other feature. Let me use the word feature.
You are in all these things.
It's who are you created to be. And I love the word God's word in Psalms 139, which talks about God knit every one of us in our mother's wombs, in the depths before our own mother saw us, and he knows every single fiber. So I think it's good to even just always connect. For me, I'll always take it back there. If you're able to connect with your creator in a very intimate way, I feel like a lot of the solutions for how to just live life, including how to be a husband, because I can assure you, our fathers and our fathers' fathers all the way up did not necessarily ace it. They had lots of stuff that left a lot to be desired, and of course, with whatever the set of circumstances they were in, they did the best they could. And so there's a lot which they did which was good, but there are many things that leave a lot to be desired. And so the true playbook, blueprint is with God, and the only way, in the same way that, like, just like a fingerprint, there's no person who can tell you how to love your better half.
No.
I can't stand here and tell any man, go love your wife like this. There's a general guidelines of how to be a decent husband,
Be kind.
Yes.
Lead the family.
Yes, there's a general.
Yes.
But there's certain things around your dynamic, what your spouse's needs are. And there's this amazing book which is called His Needs, Her Needs. And the needs are, of course, different. And I think that the ultimate inspiration will come from a place of connecting with identity, with your creator. And from that, you will get just, I like to call them downloads, clear downloads of how do I deal with how do we deal with this situation. We're having a parenting issue, we're having a disciplining issue, we're having a finance issue, we're trying to start a new project. In a way that's not necessarily what is cliche, not what the boys say that you do, because they will not always have the answers. Not what your parents, the in-laws issue, who told you to do, not what your, I don't know, what minor. I hope I won't be stoned. And whoever it is in media talked about.
And I like that you bring out the media, because that will be the next thing, because there's a certain way men are portrayed. You'll see that in movies, in our local TV shows, you'll see it in magazines, in our billboards, and it sort of like sets a certain standard for, the ideal man who is liked by women, because there's always that thing for men who always want to nimepata yule ama, I am impressive to this and this and this kind of person. So how then do I deal with that as a man, with pressure from the highway, the billboards, from the TV shows I set up, when I tune into the radio, nasikia nani akisema nini,
That's a good one. I think I love the persona, the Johnny Bravo, the Rambo, the Van Damme, that persona. I mean, first of all, we all grew up seeing that, and we're like, man, that guy is, what's the guy, Jack Bauer, Bauer. 24. The guy who comes in, sorts everybody out, and is out, So that's something to aspire to be. What I'd say, and let me qualify that, it's something to aspire to be in its context. Like, I know for a fact, for my spouse, for my better half, there's nobody who can solve problems like I do. And that really makes me, and that's for a man, it's a need. I need to be felt like, I need to feel needed. I need to feel like I'm that guy, I'm indispensable, all those things.
My to-go-to.
That's the thing. And so I think it's because it's created, we are inborn with that desire to be, it's a primal desire to want to win, to want to be better than most, to want to be all those things. But I think it's good to give it some sort of framework and some sort of structure. For one, you can't be better than everybody in everything.
That's true.
So find your arena and be the very best. In fact, that's my mantra for life. I say, I mean, there are many things you can do, including one individual. There are many skill sets I have, but I can't be the best
Yeah.
in this part of the world, in all of them. So I pick that which I feel I can be able to completely contribute to the world and do it at my best. Similarly, so as a man, back to identity, find what is that thing which any guys will be like. Maybe you're a violinist.
Yes.
Maybe you're a tennis player. Maybe you're a, I don't know, you're a stylist. Whatever it is, you know. And that's what your identity, that's what your fulfillment and satisfaction. And when all things line up well, that person will just see you and they're like, Yani, this is the person who makes me, you know, I mean, just a couple of days I saw the Wahoo Nameless interview and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is, you know, 16 plus years. And just seeing how, like, literally, this is the person that they are each other's person, so to speak, you know.
It comes out easily.
It comes out easily, and you can see that this person will be crazy and fall in love with you over and over and over and over again. So it's, I think, give it some sort of framework, give it some sort of structure. The thing about it is, don't be caught up in the fallacy. There is a fallacy.
Yeah.
The same way, you know, how many women are enough or how many men are enough. None, so to speak. I mean, the reality of the matter, if you try and say one is not enough, you probably will never be satisfied. Similarly, if you get so caught up in wanting to be everybody's hero, it's not sustainable. You can't be all things to all people.
No, you can't. No, you can't. Let's talk about the man who grows up without like a father figure, which is a conversation that is usually very controversial in a way, where we've had many ladies bring up, single-handedly bring up young boys into man and all of that. And when you meet a certain kind of man who behaves a certain kind of way, then you'll find most people blaming it on or saying that pengine hakukua is because and all of that. How then the mother at that point who wants to make sure that their child has a role model or has all these teachings and you know, ways of coming up, direction, becoming like a man who is, you know, respectable, kind, and has all these values that sort of like a man needs.
That's an absolute, what I'd say, almost like it's like a crisis. We talked about a couple of, last time I was on.
Yeah.
I think 4 in 10 children have been raised by single mothers. It could even be slightly higher, close to even 5 or maybe in 10. And so this is a real conversation we need to talk about around our society right now. It's a thing. So the thing is, first of all, God never intended for it to be that way. In fact, like I kept on saying, dad is destiny. There's even a book and there are principles that, and when you think about it, everybody still at some level wants to identify with their father, wherever and however long they were with them. And so, or at least a figure that's like a father figure. I think my own father lost his dad when he was like early 20s.
Yeah.
And I noticed he had become very close with his grandfather, and they were very close. But I know there are many things he missed out because of, you know, not having him there. And he was already adult, you know. I lost my dad, the same person I spoke about 2 years ago. And I'm a grown-up person, you know, my own family and everything. And I still feel the gap. So the reality of the matter, the way it's been designed, there's a way the father's position is absolutely critical. No one should actually grow up without that figure. And there's something about, Faith loves to say how she doesn't get how, it's like God gave us this authority.
Yeah.
You know, like even animals, you know, like a small animal, like you could be somewhere at Arboretum and a man shows up or just makes a little bit of a sound and the monkeys take off, you know.
Yeah.
And or the cats, and you know, like there's a way that you can actually be able to scare off an animal just because of your presence.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find even the animals sometimes realize they can harass you a little bit, you know, like maybe it's just ladies, they can harass you a little bit. So there's something about that position of authority, and that also sort of like sets in let me say, even at a developing, especially a developing young man, the understanding of respect for authority, understanding of what you need to be to protect, starting to slowly build that into their internal operating system, protecting, providing, being a priest, all those things. And so it's very important. And so how can you deal with it? I think you need to just treat it as an absolute priority. You need to find somebody who can stand in that position. Is it a brother? Maybe an uncle? Is it a close society member? You know, is it a leader in the church?
Yeah.
You need to consciously create that space. The same way, which is obviously not as common, if a man is raising a daughter or daughters without that figure, or the figure of the maternal figure, it's very important to be able to give that modeling, which he himself may not be able to do. Of course, it's not as common. So it's very important that you allow, find a way to be able to create a space where a man can be able to model And not just like once a quarter,
No.
like regularly. That this young boy, young man needs to be in a space where they're literally being seen by an older man, they're being challenged, they're being motivated, they're being inspired, they're even being corrected, you know, and somebody who has that right, who has that permission. Unfortunately, sometimes, you know, you have it's people who are in and out of
your life.
So it has to be a very, very intentional and a very, very clear decision. But it is a matter of absolute priority.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we've made it clear from the onset that it's not easy.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. There's no manual, and there's this line: adulting is hard, and adulting is a scam, and all of that, and so more so for the man. But how then does a man who's trying to, you know, do it right by society, by himself, by his family, maintain or achieve, you know, like sort of a balance in all of this?
So what I'll do, I'll take it back to how we started the conversation the last
Yes.
time I was on, which is authenticity.
Yes.
Authenticity is one of the least, and I'd say one of the least expressed, but one of the most valuable attributes that a person can have, not just a man, anybody. Because there's nothing as amazing as showing up as your real authentic self. You know, that like people see what, I mean, they hear and see what you're feeling. And, you know, literally they say it's like what you get is what you see.
Yeah.
There's no other hidden card, you know. And that's not easy because many times, you know, people want to put on a mask and want to show up and present themselves in a way they are not. So that's, for me, is the simplest and first thing I'd say. Just be your most authentic self.
Yeah.
Not easy. And obviously, you can't just completely lay it all bare for everybody. It has to be in a safe space. And so authentic means you need to be able to admit when you don't know. And that's a lot of the time, you know. Be able to say that I'm trying to figure this out, you know.
Yeah.
Like if I say it's not easy being a man, because it's a fact, you know. The people say, no, I'm killing it, I'm acing it. Oh, parenting is easy, you know.
Yeah.
Marriage, and the people who come on, go on and you know, and talk about how marriage is, you know, it's and obviously you can obviously see behind that it's not, or relationships or family. In fact, Bishop Jakes talks about you don't have to complain that you're from a dysfunctional family. Everybody's from a dysfunctional family, you know, because literally being part of a family unit, a societal unit, a relationship is not easy. So the first thing is just to be authentic, and I think just take it, pace yourself. There are lots of resources, you know, and this community is key.
Yes.
If you're able to get a community, and that's one thing men don't have, a community of men, and I'm going to plug my enough, which
Please
got
do. This is where.
a real beating.
No. Please, by all means.
You know, I have been a facilitator. Whenever the opportunity comes, I get to facilitate Burning Up. I've been a plenary speaker, and I continue to support it's an amazing ministry. And I can say for a fact, I've seen so many men come through that program.
What does the program do? I think it's sort of like famous.
It is, huh?
It is very famous. I have heard that name many times.
Yes.
What happens in there? Atuambiwi pia kama men's conference.
so well, I think let's say that obviously it's a men's program.
Yes.
So obviously I think we'd like for the for, let me say, let's say the benefits or the effects to be felt more than the content, really, because it's really identity.
Okay.
It's really taking the man back, you know, to your identity with God, your identity in terms of society. What are the things that a man is expected to be, whether it's even in an African setting? How does a man go about even just intimacy and sexuality? How does a man go about even issues around call of duty to the society, you know, around contribution to the society. Contribution is key, you know.
Yeah.
And well, obviously it's an amazing program.
Yes.
And we have had some things, but it's because obviously when you're doing a great job, you'll definitely get also feedback on the other side. And there are some challenges around because just like a church is a hospital for those who are wounded and those who need to heal. Similarly, it is like a church setting, you know, and there are people who are healing and are going through difficult stuff and have come through difficult stuff and going through a process. And so there are no saints in terms of anybody's looking for or wants to pick, starting with me, people with fault, you find many. But it's what I love about it is it's a movement of men who have consciously decided to break or stop the cycle. Talking about domino effect. There are certain patterns that have been there in their lives even before their generation, which we have all been able to identify now, and through the program you identify, and consciously saying, I'll actually stand up and I'll actually stop this cycle, whether it's a cycle of alcoholism, a cycle of abuse, cycle of broken relationships, cycle of name it, you know, even toxic masculinity, the infamous term, whatever it is, and say, I'm going to try something different. And what the program gives many people, almost every group that goes through it, is it gives them a band of men, a small group of men, about maybe 10 or so, who you can keep each other accountable with. And I know men who I've seen, as long as the program has
you know,
been.
when I hear that, usually women, we have these things, you know, it's so
naturally.
easy. Yeah, it's so easy.
It just forms naturally.
Yeah.
Now this is actually, you know, and created
that
around.
That means they're very intentional with why they're there and committed to it. Because it takes a lot for a man to accept nataka kusaidiwa, nataka kuget better.
And with a common language, we can say, remember what we said about this. You know, remember what we said about taking initiative, about responsibility, about even, of course, some of the infamous terms which if I use right now, you won't understand because they are, you know, they are, it's language of the program. And I'm trying to withhold from you a little bit of information, including terms like those, you know, if I use a term like people use terms like, oh, you know, cuisine and other things that people would, you know, obviously now really piquing your curiosity. We probably need to have a conversation just about man enough with some of the leaders in that.
Definitely. And I think it's a conversation that we need to have probably next time.
Absolutely.
Because my time is up.
Absolutely.
Please plug Delve Limited and how people can get in touch with you as well.
As always, of course, for me as a coach and trainer and one of the partners at Delve Training, we are very happy to be able to support every individual along their journey to get clearer understanding of their identity.
Yeah.
Of course, we work with individuals, we work with teams, and we work with whole organizations. And for us, our greatest return on investment that you can get is getting transformation. People transformed minds and much more aligned teams.
Absolutely.
So call us Delve Training on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're there.
Kila mahali.
Yes.
Asante sana kukuja.
Thank you so
much. Always amazing having George in studio. We're taking a very short commercial break. We will be right back. This is Full Circle with Wikali.